Oh my gosh, we just got so much information for Street Fighter 6, new content, World Tour mode information, new characters are coming. Oh my gosh, John, I'm overwhelmed. You're going to have to do it.
So much stuff here. We want to talk about what we think of this stuff. The character reveals are the thing that jumped out the most to me. And actually, Matsumoto, the producer of the game, said that the appeal of the characters themselves is the most important element of the Street Fighter franchise, not only to the players, but to the devs. And that was quite interesting to me because we got Akuma, Aki, Ed, and Rashid. A couple of those characters maybe not super fond of here. John, like, what do you think of the characters? How did they strike you when you first saw them?
I mean, we kind of had an inclination that these guys were coming because of a certain leak that looked pretty legit when we first saw it, and sure enough, we're going to get Rashid first. And I mean, of these three, I'm sort of intrigued by Aki because she's brand new, and I think she might have to do with like a poison mechanic like Fong did. I am super not very hyped for Ed. I'm always hyped for Akuma, but that's not for a long time. And then Rashid being the first character, I know he was the protagonist of Street Fighter V. I know he was popular. I think he was popular because he was stupid good for a long time. I don't know if he's the one you lead this off with, but that's what they're doing. I guess those are my initial feelings and thoughts.
Yeah, I like Ed quite a bit. Akuma's a home run no matter what. Aki's a brand new character that seems to be Fong's apprentice, as we know before. And then you get to Rashid, and you go, ugh, if you were a big Street Fighter V player, I don't know many people who actually liked this guy. And so I'm kind of like going, okay, what are they going to do with him? And are they going to make him stupid again? That's what I'm really afraid of. And so we know next to nothing about him. And then a few other things they confirmed is that they're going to roll characters out every single year like we saw with Street Fighter V. So that's a really good confirmation that more DLC seasons are coming. I'm hoping that they get the rollout to more like 5 or 6 characters like what we saw in the prior game instead of 4 per year, or however they're kind of doing this. It seems like they're trying to finish up the main game so far, so they haven't quite gotten to the point where they can roll out 5 or 6 characters per season. That's what I'm hoping, but we'll see.
Well, in the last time, take with me a trip back to, 2016, Season 1 of Street Fighter V, a very different atmosphere and feeling. They were scrambling to get the game together, of course, but in that first season of DLC, there were 6 characters, and that was, like you say, the standard for most of Street Fighter V's life. Each season, 6 characters. They were clamoring to get that together. I believe it was a Balrog or a Buki. One of those was delayed, and it came out with the other one. It was, they were not able to dot I's and cross T's, and I think that's in part because they put too many characters at a time. And so my first thought is that maybe this is because they want to make sure that they do all of these characters correctly, that they don't run up against it, and so maybe that's why they're doing it this way with only 4 characters instead. I would like to see more if we could have more, but if this is quality over quantity, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, we don't want the dumpster fire that was 5. That seems to be very specifically what they're trying to avoid in a number of respects. But funny enough, there are actually a number of features that clearly ported over right from 5 into 6, which is fascinating. But we'll get into that in a second, because the main showcase that they had here is the World Tour mode. That is mainly what the presentation focused on, and this is very much a fighting RPG mode where you can level up, acquire new skills in a tree, fight alongside the characters on Street Fighter 6's roster while you learn from them. World Tour mode actually lightly resembles Street Fighter V survival mode in terms of its power-ups and items as you use them, like you would use them in the prior game to boost your stats and other things, which is right out of survival mode. But this is definitely done with more of an RPG.
That's the only thing that it's similar to survival mode, though, by the way, because that's a bad word. Don't be like associating.
Street Fighter V, it's a bad word.
Yeah, well, survival mode. Oh my gosh, that was a terrible experience. But yeah, you do use like you get pizza or you get like an energy drink, and that can boost your health. I'm not sure about the particulars, like if you can get faster, I would assume things like that too. Maybe your defense.
Yeah, it's like vitality, make your punches hit harder, make your kicks hit harder, things of that nature. There seems to be about 6 core kind of like stats that you can get into, and it's just all stuff that would normally impact the game. Where it gets a little bit unique is that you can get an extra bar of super art, or you can learn additional special attacks. I imagine that you're limited to like maybe 5 special attacks from like the masters or whatever, so you can get a few more in this way. But it looks to me like they've improved the graphics of World Tour mode since we last saw the game. Like they updated the shaders and the lighting to make it look better overall, and the game looks more polished. It definitely looks like we're on the cusp of a good release here. And then getting into it, Luke is your coach when you start World Tour mode, and then your rival and classmate, who I think is going to be a lock for a DLC character later on because his model looks really detailed and fleshed out, is Bosch. John, you had a groan there when you saw Bosch is going to be the potentially. Yeah.
So, I mean, when we first saw Bosch a long time ago, when the game was kind of shortly after it was revealed, whatever, he kind of reminds me of Gary from Pokemon. And Gary and Theo Vaughn, if you combine the two. But then that as a character, I'm like, oh, not so much. And like, I'm not super excited for him because we didn't really know anything about him. They did have like fully done character models that you would fight in Street Fighter V story mode that never made it to the character select screen. So there's that. But actually, I was thinking about this. I played through the first like 15 minutes or so of World Tour mode in the demo that's now out for PlayStation 4 and 5. And Bosch is actually like, yeah, your right-hand man, at least for the beginning of it. Like, he's got this kind of like weird thing where he's like, I'm not even going to shake your hand at the beginning. But then Luke is like, you guys got to be partners, you got to be buddies. And so then he's kind of on your team as you begin the game. And immediately kind of has some charisma that I'm wondering if he's going to become like a meme in the Street Fighter community of like, Bosch is so awesome. I could see that potentially happening. I'm still not thinking that he's going to be a character, especially if, you have so many potential characters to bring into this that people would absolutely lose their minds over, and like Sagat and Dudley and others that are in another video that we just recently posted. But Bosch, he's better than I thought he was. Having played with him a little bit, fought with him, but he's not character worthy in my opinion.
No, did you have any extra impressions of the demo that you messed around with it? Like, what did you think overall of it?
So yeah, it starts out, it's just a basic, like, here's your movement and here's how to do some basic moves. In the demo that's available right now, you have to play in modern controls when you're in World Tour. So that took some getting used to because I was just wanting to play the traditional 6 button and I had to figure out, I have a couple of specials and then a couple of target combos that I'm going to mash and whatnot. So there was that. But in terms of getting to feel what it's going to be like to go around in World Tour mode, that's all there. The movement is satisfying. Things like this, like little things like if your character moved too slowly or were too hard to maneuver around, even though that's small, because of how much of the experience is going to be dictated by that, those could be huge problems, some things that were in the back of my mind when only seeing World Tour mode. It's very fluid. You can move around. You can fight most people on the street, which is weird because you just run up to some random lady and just press X and they just, let's go, and we fight. And that's kind of crazy to me, but fine, fair enough. So having played 15 minutes of it, I am actually intrigued to go back and continue to explore it. I'm not like, oh man, I want to get to this, like I want to get through professional mode in Resident Evil 4, but for a Street Fighter single player mode, this is better than like anything that we've seen. It's very different from anything that we've seen before, but positives from me, it's intuitive, it flows nicely, and I'm looking forward to like putting together a ridiculous character with Dhalsim range and like Ryu power and Ken Rushdown all at the same time, which is going to be ridiculous. And like you can even fight other people like online with that, is what it looks like from what we saw today. Yeah. But World Tour mode looking pretty B+ to me.
Yeah, I'm going to make Rose first thing as my avatar and run around with her until Capcom puts her in the game, because you have to put her in the game, Capcom. Thank you. But anyway, they also promised a unique slew of characters to discover in the World Tour mode, which actually looks to be littered with like Final Fight cameos like Carlos and Damned. And yeah, as you mentioned, you can fight just tons of NPCs, and I would be very shocked if the game doesn't like kind of trigger random encounters and scripted sequences, much like you would find in an RPG or other type of game.
Just like in that happens in World Tour mode too. You go down an alleyway and 2 box heads, as I'm calling them now, because they have those cardboard boxes, show up, and then you have no choice but to fight them. So that's very much there too.
Nice. So World Tour mode has a mini-map and a quest log, or missions area, basically, which is right out of games like The Witcher 3 or Cyberpunk 2077, both RPG titles. And this is like, again, this is so heavily borrowing so many RPG elements in here. And Matsumoto talked about revolutionizing fighting games here. And I really wonder if this single-player content, because a lot of the multiplayer stuff, a lot of other things are doing just like iterations of what we've seen before, but this single-player mode looks to be very different and almost kind of like redefining how fighting games are done. Maybe a Shenmue type of thing, a throwback to that.
Yeah, it's in some ways I'm like expecting this to just be like, we need to do some single player content and here's a taste of that, and it's they put a lot of effort into it, but at the end of the day it's kind of like a throwaway mode that's like there because it needs to be there. I think it's going to be at the very least more than that at this point. So it's better than I had expected it, or I kind of worried that it might be. That said, it's not. there's just no way it's going to be The Witcher 3. It's not going to be God of War.
Right. No way.
And that's not what we're wanting anyway. You know, like if we got even a half of that kind of experience from like what I'm going to say is kind of an extra mode in a fighting game, that's amazing. And you can fight refrigerators. So there's that. I don't know the context, but one of the things that I did take away from what we saw today in the presentation was that most all of this seems like, and this being World Tour mode, seems like it will serve the main gameplay in some way. It'll be teaching you how to approach the main gameplay in certain ways, and like ultimately it'll add to that. And if that's the case, then it gives people that are ultimately here to play Street Fighter in the traditional way a reason to go into this beyond just 100%ing the game. It's going to teach you stuff. It's going to help you learn inputs and approaches and this and that. So there is that.
We've been talking about this actually for years, that the main game needs to teach you how to play it and play it properly. And finally, it looks like they've nailed it, which has not really been done in a major AAA fighting game like this. So moving on here, basically there's all the odds and ends. Custom rooms or lobbies now have an online training option that supports up to 16 players. So there are 4 cabinets that you can put in there, and they can be set to one-on-one, extreme battle, or the aforementioned training mode. So players have something to do while they wait for the main match to play out. This is a big quality of life improvement if you do a lot of lobbies, which our community is super well known for. And it just means that you're not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs and kind of waiting or just watching the match. You can actually do some other stuff there, which is really badly needed. There's an option in the Battle Hub to fight with your custom avatar, which you were talking about, which is pretty cool. And this will not be balanced at all, but that will definitely be a fun way to mess around with some just bonkers combinations and other stuff. The zoning of Dalsim and the SPD of Zangief, and you go, okay, right. No balance there, right?
But, and to tack on to what I was just saying though too, as far as like it introduces you to the game, it's not only going to introduce you to the various kinds of inputs and maybe some strategy and stuff like that, but it's also going to teach you how to play the characters. I don't know if they're all in there, but at least a handful of them, Ryu, Chun-Li, Luke so far are in there, and you do their moves and you play more or less as them while you're training under them. So it's going to give you an idea of how to fight and how to fight against, therefore, all of these characters. So again, just another underscore to what I said in terms of this will prepare you in some significant ways to play the game proper, not just inputs, but also like the characters.
Yeah, and all the characters will be in there, just to clarify, and then not only them, but the DLC characters, the new 4 characters they're adding will be in there as well. So you can do all that. And then clubs are looking like they're going to be replacing dojos, like in Street Fighter V, with a good amount of customization. It seems like there's a 100-player limit in there per club. You can make your own custom logo and uniform, but this is really a way for esports teams to represent themselves in game. I'm pretty happy with that. You're going to have a lot of non-esports people making their own clubs and other stuff. It's a pretty fun way to kind of unite the player base in the game itself. Instead of using stuff like Discord or Twitter, here we go, it's in the game. That's a really nice feature to have. Arcade mode looks to be a near direct port from prior games, with a few animation stills and narration over it by the characters, and offering an ending once you've completed the run through the arcade ladder. This seems like the main way you can get into the character stories if you want to explore that, which I love exploring that stuff. I also love to see it. And then we've got the car and vehicle destruction, and then the basketball parry stages from Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3 respectively. They are back now. Heck yeah, so happy to see that. Tutorials, combo trials, and character guides from Street Fighter V, which are actually really undersold in our community. A lot of people don't go in and look at those things, but all 3 of those things are in Street Fighter V, and they're beautifully done. And then the combo trials, you're going to have the light, medium, and heavy, basically the hardcore ones. And if you're having trouble getting through combo trials, you can actually slow down the game to half of its speed to make it easier to land all the combos and get through it. And so you can kind of learn the timing without the hardcore stuff going through.
We've said this before, so I won't belabor the point too long, but Capcom has been listening to the cries and the wants of the community. We need something that actually engages us from square one before we know how to play the game. We need something that teaches us the game. We want frame data and different modes in training, and all of this stuff is in there now. If your grandma who's never played a fighting game in her life can pick this up and be introduced in a valid way, in an enticing way, I'm so happy to see that Capcom has finally really done this with a game. I think that Street Fighter 6 could hit heights that the franchise has never seen before. On the table right now, still, with everything that we've seen thus far, might be the best Street Fighter game of all time. It's a chance.
definitely got a chance. Finishing up here, team battles are also back from Street Fighter V. Extreme Battle is also labeled as the game's party mode, so you can mess around a ton with different gimmicks and stuff, and there's like Street Fighter's version of Hot Potato, which kind of sounds interesting to me. And then the Battle Hub is said to have special events and a unique store as well, and I'm personally hoping for a way to watch tournaments in the game where you can just like sit there and look at the frame data and hitboxes, all that other kind of stuff, and just sit back and watch a tournament however you want to, either in the game, on Twitch, on YouTube, wherever you want to go, but bake it into the game, make that in the game so I can just watch a tournament from there. That's what I really want to do, is because maybe I want to go play Battle Hub or something like that, like after a couple matches or something like that. If I'm already in the game, that much easier. But I'm very happy overall with this presentation. I don't see anything where I'm going, you know what, Capcom, like what's going on here? Why did you do that? And other stuff like that. What were you thinking? Like, those are really obvious things that I think have happened in 4 and in 5. And I'm really happy this time around where they seem to have gotten the messaging from the community, from us, from other people, and been like, hey, this is how we're going to do things right now. This looks like a complete and finished product, and I'm really happy to see it.
I have nothing but good things to say thus far. We'll see what happens when the game actually drops, but I would say when we get our hands on it, we've already got our hands on it through 2 betas and now through World Tour mode, and everything that we've experienced has lived up to everything that we've seen in the game. Is well calibrated, is attending to all of the needs, checking all the boxes that fans have been asking for. I daren't say it's perfect, but hot damn, it's hard to find something wrong with it thus far.